The American Color Revolution, from Russiagate to military mutiny. How the playbook for foreign regime change is being deployed domestically, culminating in a direct assault on civilian command. The systematic campaign against Donald J. Trump represents more than political opposition. It is a deliberate execution of a color revolution strategy, a method of regime change once reserved for adversarial nations. This playbook has been deployed domestically and has now reached its most dangerous phase, an attempted soft coup through military sedition. The recent emergence of a group of officials known as the Seditious Six marks the culmination of a decade-long operation to undermine American sovereignty from within. Phase 1, creating the narrative of illegitimacy. The operation began immediately upon Trump's political emergence. The establishment media and political class did not treat him as a standard opponent. They branded him a racist, a fascist, and later a Russian asset from his first day on the campaign trail. This narrative was not accidental. It was the essential first step in the color revolution playbook. By framing him as an illegitimate leader and an existential threat, they created the moral justification for all subsequent actions. The Clinton campaign-funded Steele dossier became the primary weapon in this phase, a fabricated document used to justify illegal surveillance and fuel years of media hysteria. Phase 2, building the institutional scaffolding. A color revolution requires infrastructure. The resistance was not an organic movement. It was built upon a network of NGOs, Never Trump think tanks, and activist groups. More critically, it relied on compromised factions within the very institutions designed to protect the nation. The FBI, the Department of Justice, and the intelligence community were weaponized against the sitting president. Whistleblowers became leakers. Investigators became political operatives. This institutional scaffolding provided the organization, funding, and veneer of legitimacy needed to sustain a long-term campaign. Phase 3, triggering events and mass mobilization. Every revolution needs its flashpoints. The orchestrators of this campaign engineered a series of triggering events designed to create maximum outrage and mobilize public sentiment. The Russia collusion narrative dominated the first years of Trump's presidency. 2 impeachments based on flimsy and constitutionally dubious grounds kept him in a perpetual state of political defense. The events of January 6th were instantly and permanently framed as an insurrection incited by the president himself. Each event was amplified by a compliant media to create a constant atmosphere of crisis, justifying increasingly extreme measures. Phase 4, lawfare and provoking overreaction. When street protests and political maneuvers failed to remove Trump, the opposition turned to the courts. This phase, known as lawfare, aimed to achieve through legal harassment what could not be won at the ballot box. A barrage of lawsuits, indictments, and investigations was launched across multiple jurisdictions. The goal was threefold: to drain his resources, distract his administration, and ultimately disqualify him from office. Simultaneously, every action Trump took in self-defense was framed as an authoritarian overreaction, further cementing the narrative of a tyrant. Phase 5, splitting the elite. A key indicator of a successful color revolution is the fracturing of the ruling class. This phase was wildly successful. Major institutions that typically maintain a nonpartisan stance turned against the president. The corporate media became a unified propaganda arm. The intelligence community leaked classified information to damage him. The federal bureaucracy, or the deep state, engaged in a slow-roll resistance to his policies. This united front from the elite created an environment where constitutional governance became nearly impossible. Phase 6, the military split and the Seditious Six. We now arrive at the final and most perilous phase, the direct attempt to break the military's allegiance to its commander-in-chief. This is the signature of a color revolution's endgame. When all other methods fail, the strategy turns to convincing the nation's armed forces that their duty is to disobey civilian leadership. This seditious endeavor is being led by a group of individuals with impeccable national security credentials. They are not fringe activists. They are insiders whose military and intelligence backgrounds give dangerous weight to their calls for insubordination. They have been called the Seditious Six. Alyssa Slotkin, a former CIA analyst with 3 tours in Iraq, uses her intelligence background to frame opposition to Trump as a national security imperative. Mark Kelly, a Navy captain and NASA astronaut, publicly urged military leaders to consider disobeying lawful orders from a re-elected President Trump. His stature makes this call for mutiny particularly grave. Chrissy Houlihan, an Air Force officer with classified experience, advocates for the military to serve as a check on presidential authority. Chris DeLuzio, a Navy cyber officer, works to constrain presidential power in military domains. Jason Crow, an Army Ranger and Bronze Star recipient, uses his combat credentials to suggest that disobeying the commander-in-chief might be necessary. Maggie Goodlander, a legal counsel within the Defense Department, works to build the legal framework for this defiance. These individuals represent the weaponization of America's national security apparatus against itself. Their public statements and private whisper campaigns are designed to shatter the most fundamental principle of our republic, civilian control of the military. Conclusion: the Republic at the Precipice. The journey from Russiagate to the rhetoric of military mutiny is not a series of isolated events. It is a straight line following a well-established playbook. The Seditious Six are not the masterminds, but they are the most dangerous instruments of this final phase. Their actions prove that a cabal of elites would rather shatter the Constitution than allow a populist president to govern. The American people are witnessing a slow-motion coup. The outcome will determine whether the United States remains a republic governed by its people and their elected leaders, or becomes a client state of its own unaccountable security apparatus. The mask is off. The battle is no longer about left versus right. It is about whether the American Republic will survive. The narration should be generated with an AI voice that matches a serious documentary tone.